Hello, and thank you for joining the Ellie's Place Facilitator Training and Responsibilities Overview module. In this module, we'll review what the facilitator process looks like and its learning goals for each section. We'll also clarify the expectations and responsibilities of volunteer facilitators at Ellie's Place. Then we'll review the structure of what our groups look like, our program calendar, and the flow of what our nightly schedules look like as well. So we'll start with our training structure and what all the different components of training are going to look like. So let's start with the first step of training, the asynchronous learning modules. Over the next 5 hours or so, we'll talk about what Ellie's Place is, our mission, and all the services we provide to the community. We'll also review our program structure so you have a clear idea of what our support groups are and what you're stepping into. This also means that we'll talk more about what your role and responsibilities are as a support group facilitator. We'll cover our philosophy and model of grief support, the basics to creating a safe, supportive environment for kids and teens to share and connect with one another, and we'll review policies regarding safety, boundaries, time commitment, and more. Lastly, we'll cover the basics of child development principles to give you some helpful context to supporting your groups. We'll explore the developmental differences and processing grief across different age levels, why peer support groups are so helpful, and how these principles can be used to create realistic boundaries and expectations for your groups. After modules are completed, you'll join our synchronous Zoom trainings, and these trainings are an opportunity to connect with our staff and other volunteers who are starting at Ellie's Place. As a note, these Zoom trainings will include folks from both our Ann Arbor and West Michigan branches, which is great because it means we get to double the amount of perspectives and knowledge in the room, and you're included in that. So as you move through these modules, take notes of the things that resonate with you, that you want to learn more about, or even the things that you still have questions about. We'll debrief the modules during the first training before we jump into sessions about facilitation skills, which will revolve around companioning the bereaved. This is a framework that serves as the foundation to our work as peer facilitators. It essentially is a mindset that focuses on sitting with our group members and affirming their experiences rather than trying to solve or fix their grief. And to do so, we'll talk about how to support groups with diverse identities, ideologies, and grief practices. We'll learn about group formation, dynamics, and how to work through common challenges and enhance and practice skills in empathetic listening. Just to clarify, most of the second Zoom training will be dedicated to empathetic listening. It's one of the most important skills in this framework and the most frequently used. So we'll want to make sure everyone gets a chance to really practice empathetic listening and observe different styles of it as well. Lastly, you'll end training with your Ellie's Place team at your branch location. There, you'll finish some of the last components of volunteer onboarding, like paperwork, meeting your branch staff and other new volunteers in person. You'll get a tour of your building, and we'll also take pictures of everyone that day so we can add you to our welcome board. Families look at the welcome board so they have a sense of who you are when they walk in and which group you support. The rest of the day will be dedicated to practicing your facilitation skills and putting together all the knowledge you gained over our modules and Zoom trainings. This will include learning about more advanced topics like supporting those who have experienced trauma or stigmatized deaths like suicide, homicide, or overdose. And you'll also learn how to navigate safety concerns or challenging behaviors that might come up during groups. We'll do this by reviewing scenarios in small groups, observing and participating in group activities, and we'll even save time for each of you to practice facilitating a quick activity with the group so you can get feedback before your first night. But please know that there is no expectation for you to walk into group and lead the very first day. You'll be paired with a team of 1 to 3 other co-facilitators who have a lot of empathy and know how overwhelming the first few months are for new facilitators. Our training is really comprehensive, so you can get a taste of facilitating before we throw you into the fire. But your first few weeks will likely focus on just taking a step back and observing our veteran facilitators and getting to know your group members. So no pressure. After training, we'll reach out to you to schedule a post-training interview. This will be an opportunity to just hear how training felt for you, what was helpful, and how we can best support you as you enter groups. It's also a time for us to check in to see how you feel about the facilitator role in general. Some folks go through the entire training and realize it's just not the best fit for them and their schedule, and that's okay. We're here to work with you, and we'd rather you be honest about any reservations that you have. Sometimes it really is us just affirming someone's confidence in the role. Sometimes they get in their head a little bit, and other times facilitating just isn't the right fit, and we have other opportunities like helping in the kitchen or supporting the activity room that makes more sense for them. But if you are still interested in facilitating, we would do is we would reach out after your post-training interview when your background check has been cleared to offer. Um, so that was our training structure. Let's talk about what our program structure looks like at Ellie's Place. So first, what are peer support groups? Basically, support groups are facilitated conversations that allow group members to explore their feelings and experiences around grief or death. A place to share and explore coping skills and memories, and to connect with others who have experienced grief. It's kind of like the image on the right here. We see a bunch of people who are blindfolded and they're all trying to figure out what they're experiencing here. Every person has a completely different experience. One person's feeling something pointy, another person says it's really loud, one person says it's feeling flat, another says it's kind of fun and wiggly. None of them are wrong. They're all just experiencing different aspects of the same thing. And this is really helpful because right now one person is experiencing something flat, but they could easily keep moving and feel something pointy. So that gives them a heads up that something pointy is about to come. Similarly, the person who's experiencing something pointy might be afraid to feel around and keep going. So hearing about that flat or fun wiggly part might be really helpful and encourage them to keep exploring this experience. And so because of this, support groups have a bunch of great benefits for group members, and this is across all ages. This is Irvin Yalom's list of therapeutic factors for groups. We won't go through every single one, but you'll see a lot of these components as you join groups and watch group members grow. You'll see the benefits of group members seeing that others have similar experiences, that they'll learn about the different dimensions of grief and coping and navigating family dynamics through it. And ideally, they'll feel better and more hopeful by sharing their experiences with others. As volunteers, you're going to focus on supporting K-12 groups with a team of co-facilitators, but we also offer support groups for their caregivers. Here you can see some of the differences. Instead of volunteer facilitators, our adult groups are run by one licensed clinician, and groups tend to be open conversations rather than facilitated activities. Clinicians join us during debrief and briefing to give context of our family's experiences and insight into the support or challenges our group members may face at home. All of our groups take place at the same time from 6:45 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. and have a maximum capacity of 12 participants. Instead of being grouped by developmental level, like our K-12 groups, our adult groups are divided by the type of loss to the caregiver. This includes our suicide, homicide, and overdose group, or SHO, SHO, spouse partner loss, which we refer to as SPL, child loss, or CL, or other significant loss, OSL. OSL is for folks who don't fit into the other categories listed, so it can include grandparents of someone who died, the parent of a caregiver, maybe it was a family friend, or it could be an ex-partner who was the parent of their child. We see a big variety in that group. So as a note, these adult groups are only offered to caregivers in the immediate family of a child or teen who goes to Ellie's Place. But we offer referrals to folks who don't have a child at Ellie's Place but need support. Please note that some caregivers may fit into these categories of these different support groups, but still choose to not join group, and that's totally up to them. But caregivers still have to be on the premises during support groups when a child is in your group, so you might see them lingering around the building while groups are going on. And some group members may have siblings or other folks in the house who might not make sense for our adult groups, but they still need support. We refer them typically to our monthly virtual support groups for young adults. This group is also open to teens who age out after 18 too. You don't need to have a child who attends Ellie's Place in order to join this group, and you don't need to have attended Ellie's Place either. It's completely free and open to anyone residing in the state of Michigan who is between between the ages of 18 to 26. So if you know anyone who might be interested, we offer rolling enrollment. Just reach out to your training coordinator for more information about that. Outside of peer support groups, we also offer free 8-week programming with school partners. We do this to reach kids and teens who can't attend Ellie's Place in the evenings due to scheduling or transportation. And we also offer free outreach presentations to school partners, healthcare providers, mental health providers, and other community organizations who want to learn more about supporting children and teens through grief. Lastly, please spread the word that we offer free clinical phone consultations to anyone in the community. If anybody knows a child who is grieving, they can give us a call to talk through what those typical symptoms look like, how to support that child, and how to navigate conversations about death or grief with them. We also share referrals for therapy, grief organizations, and other basic needs in their area when requested. Death can bring a lot of changes, including loss of an income in a household, and we're here to help connect folks to those supports too. And people don't need to have an idea of what kind of support they're looking for. Death can be really jarring, so we're here to just kind of help talk things out with them when needed too. So now that you have a sense of our program structure, let's talk about our calendar and schedules. We have a couple to go through, so we're going to start with our program calendar for the year, then we'll whittle down to our typical evening schedule, and then we'll give an overview of what a typical group agenda looks like. So let's start with our program calendar for the year. And as a note, the calendar does change every year, so these are just approximations. You'll receive your official calendar at the on-site training. Our weekly support groups start in early September and run through about mid to late May. In early September, you'll meet with your program team for fall meeting and get an orientation for the year. Fall meeting is a time to get to meet your co-facilitators, get caught up to speed on incoming group members that we're already familiar with, and to learn about any program updates for the year. Typically, programming starts the week after fall meeting, and this will be your first night with groups. From then on, you'll meet weekly with groups, with the exception of Thanksgiving, winter break, and spring breaks. A group will not meet over these breaks. You'll get plenty of reminders, and again, you'll also receive a full program calendar at your on-site training. Programming ends in mid to late May to accommodate families' busy schedules during the end of the school year and over summer vacation. But we do offer family nights twice a month over the summer to anyone who is still in need of grief support. Family nights are basically an opportunity for families to do an activity together instead of breaking out into separate support groups. We offer them twice monthly and they are optional for volunteers. You'll also get to take part in 3 mandatory family nights throughout the program year, and you'll learn more about that during fall meeting and briefings. So now let's take a look at our schedule for a typical program night. Volunteers come in at 5:30 p.m. so they can have about 15 minutes to check in with co-facilitators, to check that they have all their supplies for their activities that night, and to also set up the activities in your room. At 5:45 p.m., all volunteers and clinicians report to briefing. This is an opportunity to get all of our facilitators in a room to give updates on families, Ellie's Place events, and review briefing topics. Briefing topics are basically short professional development sessions. Sometimes they're an opportunity to just get to know each other and other volunteers. Other times it might be skill refreshers like preferred language to use during anniversaries or holidays, or how to respond to challenging situations during your group time. After briefing, our volunteers, clinicians, and staff all join families during potluck. Attendance at potluck is required, and it is encouraged for volunteers to bring dishes, but it is also not required for you to bring those dishes either. We know a lot of folks are immediately coming from work or school and just don't have time to make or pick something up on the way. But at your on-site training, you'll receive a welcome packet with more information on easy things you can bring to potluck if you're interested. The most important thing about potluck is that it's an opportunity to connect with families and group members before jumping into those more vulnerable conversations. Due to confidentiality, families don't get to hear much about what happens in groups, so it's a great way to kind of build trust and rapport with families so they at least have a sense of who their kids are spending time with during group. At 6:45 p.m., potluck ends and group members report to their rooms for group. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like on the next slide, but groups last about an hour and they end at 7:45 p.m. After groups, families start to trickle out, and volunteers and staff have 15 minutes to kind of decompress, clean up their rooms, and just check in with their co-facilitators. Maybe something came up and you just want to keep them in the loop about some dynamics you noticed, or you had a question, or just something you want to strengthen as a team. At 8 p.m., everyone meets to debrief groups. So this is an opportunity for staff to hear about how groups are progressing, for groups to get support in addressing challenges that they're seeing among their group members. And it's also a time for volunteers to share how they felt throughout the night. Sometimes feelings come up during group that we have to put off to the side so we can keep that focus on the group members. Debrief is a place for us to talk about our personal experiences in group so we don't have to carry that weight home with us. So we've reviewed a typical night at Ellie's Place. Now let's take a look at what actually happens during group time. Groups go by pretty quickly. You only have 1 hour. So to keep us on track and give our group members a sense of consistency, we keep to these main components every week. We always start with the code of safety, which we'll talk about more in depth in a second. Then we start groups with opening circle, where members have the chance to share their names, pronouns, the person who died, how they died, and they usually get to answer an icebreaker question too. Everyone has the opportunity to pass any part of circle if they'd like. Members never have to answer anything that they don't want to do. And so basically code of safety and opening circle is that time to, again, establish consistency for all the group members, but also establish some psychological safety so they know who's in the room, they know what the boundaries are before they dive into those main activities. So after opening circle, groups typically do 1 or 2 activities together. These vary from week to week, and they're planned out ahead of time during group planning sessions. So you and your co-facilitators will get to go through our database and choose which activities you want to do in 6-week increments. And we'll tell you a little bit more about what group planning looks like during our fall meeting. But basically, these activities can span anything from arts and crafts to journaling prompts. Sometimes it's just playing board games and having conversations with folks, or doing like slight movement activities like maybe yoga, or they want a dance party or something like that. So you'll learn more about that later on. But really all you need to know is that you will work with your team to come up with that kind of curriculum. And then all supplies are going to be provided by Ellie's Place. And you'll have that database of activities to choose from. So we try to really make it as easy as possible for our volunteers. Outside of your main activities, all groups get 15 minutes in the activity room, which we'll talk about on the next slide. So this time slot is the same every week for each group to help with consistency. Depending on what group you're in, this slot might be the first 15 minutes a group, the last 15 minutes, or somewhere in between. Groups then end every session with some type of a closing ritual. Some groups have a closing icebreaker question, others put all their hands in and say Ellie's Place on 3. It's totally up to your group how they want to end the night. Now let's go back to activity rooms for a second. We have 2 separate activity rooms, one for K-5 groups and one for teen groups, both of which have a quiet side and a loud side. Activity rooms are 15 minutes of unstructured playtime for group members. Groups alternate, so there is only one group in the activity room at a time. So for example, pre-K is from 7 p.m. to 7:15, early L goes in from 7:15 to 7:30, and so on. The purpose of activity rooms is to meet our kids where they are. An hour can go by quickly, but it can be a really long time to a kid. And as you'll see in our modules, kids tend to jump from thought to thought and emotion to emotion a lot quicker than adults usually. The activity room is basically an opportunity to break up activities for kids who have maybe a shorter attention span, maybe they need a break a little more often, and also to give more autonomy to group members to help with engagement during that structured time. So some kids might want to keep to themselves in the quiet room, while others might want to yell and run around the loud side and play tag. It's really just giving them the opportunity to kind of do what they want and take a break from doing that structured group time together. While the activity room is an opportunity for kids to decompress during group, volunteers do still have to remain observant and engaged with group members because a lot of grief processing can happen in the activity room too. You might notice that kids are like punching the teddy bear a lot when they've never done it before. Someone might reenact a death scene in the sand tray. They might name their toy figures after their person. All of this is appropriate to engage with as a facilitator. You can ask them to tell you more about that person, ask if they've ever seen these behaviors like the punching before, or ask how the teddy bear might feel after being punched. Throughout the training, you'll learn about different strategies to engage with moments like this. All this to say, a lot can happen in the activity room. So the K-5 room is typically supported by 1 to 2 activity room helpers to support group safety and processing. We also have therapy dog teams who help greet families during potluck, and they stay in the activity rooms during group time. And they typically alternate between going to the kids' side one week, and then the next week they're at the teens' side. So they're there every other week in the activity room. Therapy dog and activity room helpers are trained to update facilitators and staff members about any notable behaviors they might observe in the activity room or during potluck. So just a heads up that they should be communicating with you. But if you have any questions about working with those other volunteers, you can always talk to your training coordinator as well. All right, we've covered a lot, and by now you hopefully have a clearer idea of what our groups look like. Now let's talk about what you'll do as a facilitator in those groups. As a facilitator, your biggest role will be upholding our support group model and philosophy. As a facilitator, you'll embody our belief that every child has the capacity to heal and move forward with their grief. And you'll support our group members by companioning the bereaved, walking alongside group members, sitting with them in their grief, and affirming their experiences. And so we want to make it really clear that facilitators are not teachers or therapists. Your job is not to tell them what to do or how to feel or how to fix or take away their grief. At Ellie's Place, we don't believe that grief is something that goes away. It's something that we just gain a capacity to carry with us for the rest of our lives. It's also not your role to discipline any of your group members. If you have a hard time engaging a member, keeping a member engaged, you always have the opportunity to call over a staff to work things out with that group member. It's also not your responsibility to explain any parts of the death that a child or teen has not already been told. You'll never be expected to explain to a group member how their person died or why. You're really focusing on what those kids and teens already know and helping them process that of just where they are at that moment. So we know what facilitators don't do. Let's talk a little bit about what facilitators should do. Facilitator responsibilities can be thought of in 3 different categories: reliability, safety, and connections. So let's start with reliability. Attendance is a huge part of reliability. To ensure consistency for our group members, we ask that all volunteers commit to 12 months or the length of one program year with their groups. We also ask that volunteers arrive promptly at 5:30 p.m. each week and stay until 9 p.m. at the very latest to help ensure quality programming and support for group members and their fellow volunteers. While consistency is incredibly important, we do also understand that life happens and you'll sometimes need to take a night off. When this happens, please let your volunteer bereavement coordinator or VBC know as soon as possible so we can ensure that we have enough volunteers to run group that night. Advanced notice is really helpful when finding a sub, so please let your VBC know as soon as possible. Attendance policies vary by branch, so we'll talk about expectations more during your on-site training. Next, we have leave of absences. Occasionally, we'll have a volunteer who has something come up in life, like an illness or work commitment that is temporary, but lasts a few months or weeks. Life happens, so please let us know if you have even an inkling that something might come up and interfere with your volunteer commitment. Outside of attendance, we also ask that you be a reliable teammate to your co-facilitators by, again, arriving on time to help set up activities, support during briefing and debriefing, and to share responsibilities during group time. As a new volunteer, you won't be expected to hop in and lead right away, but remaining engaged with your group members and helping to keep them engaged with the activity is just as important as leading the activity or discussion. We also ask that you communicate expected absences, questions, and concerns with your co-facilitators, as well as your volunteer bereavement coordinator, that VBC, as you continue to learn and grow in your role. Another part of your role will revolve around safety, both physically and psychologically. And this sounds really intimidating, but as long as you pay attention during this training and follow our policies, procedures, and our model, you'll be doing everything you need to. We'll review all of those components during training and give you a copy of our training manual during the on-site portion of the training. We're also going to give you access to our online database of activities, and as long as you're using those approved activities, you'll be having conversations and doing activities that align to our model. This training is also going to heavily emphasize the principles of companioning the bereaved and how to use Ellie's Place vocabulary in your groups. All of this is going to set you up well to welcome and support your groups. Our model supports facilitators in being mindful of preferred names, pronouns, and personal boundaries, valuing and respecting each person's unique experiences without judgment, and giving members space to explore how their unique identities, beliefs, and experiences shape their grief. Similar parts of our model will also help you support group members by developing and reinforcing group norms. You'll develop consistent routines and rituals for group members, uphold and respect emotional and physical boundaries, and help participants safely move toward their feelings, experiences, and being able to express deeper levels of their grief as they're ready. Lastly, volunteers will report to staff immediately when a group member shares any mention of hurting themselves or other people or being harmed by others or any other concerning behavior. We'll discuss this more in depth in our upcoming modules and on-site training and how this can be done while still maintaining trust with your group members. Lastly, facilitators are responsible for building connections. They'll help participants feel accepted and valued in their groups. They'll listen actively and empathetically to their group members and also affirm their experiences. They'll create space for members to support one another, to see commonalities and connections with each other. And you'll also tailor activities to the participants to help them process and express their feelings in ways that are meaningful and maybe even fun to them. Lastly, facilitators will connect with their co-facilitators and other volunteers by giving shout-outs and appreciations during debrief, listening to and supporting others during debrief, acknowledging your strengths and areas for growth as a team, and also seeking support for yourself when needed. And so we've covered quite a lot today, and this might seem like a long list of expectations, but again, you'll do all of this naturally as long as you stay engaged during training and follow our models and policies. We know this is a lot to take in, which is why you're partnered with other co-facilitators and you'll be supported by veteran volunteers. If you ever feel yourself getting overwhelmed or confused, remember that you're welcome and expected to lean on Ellie's Place staff and volunteers. Thank you so much for joining me in this presentation today. Remember to click Complete and Continue to begin the quiz and score an 80% or higher to move on to the next training module.